It was time to take my kitty to the vet. So it was time to make a corrugated plastic pet carrier. This involved a kind of closure I had never made before. The corrugated plastic I had available wasn't big enough to make it in one piece, so I made it using multiple pieces instead. Let's get into it. I took my time designing the closure, picturing in my mind how it would come together. Fortunately, I was able to catch a few problems before I started the build. For the slots on the side flaps, I decided to wait until the top was built and then measure to determine the size of those slots. I put off decisions about the handle opening as well. I had to make even the top using two pieces. I was, however, able to get those two parts from a single sheet of corrugated plastic. With the top being built separately, the bottom became just a box. I know that animals find being boxed stressful and sometimes soil their carrier. So for the bottom, I went with the same waterproof design I've made before. I did actually use one new tool, or building material if you prefer, that's not pictured here. I didn't want to wait until the bottom was built and all the parts attached to try the closure, so I used tape to hold it together. I'm glad I did. This simple cellophane tape holds the plastic together much better than I ever thought it would. It needed to be solid for the closure to work well, and it was. Having the top in this state made attaching the bottom much easier. I wasn't too concerned about how good it looked, but I did finally remove the tape just before taking pictures for this video. I ended up deciding on a length for the slots that was a bit too long, which prevented the top from closing well. Cutting an angle into the handle flaps allows the top to rise just a bit further, so that the top closes and holds well. I was able to measure the top to get the size of the bottom just right. Openings were added to make sure plenty of air can get in. Small enough openings that my kitty can't crawl through. These air holes were large enough to fit the ends of the clamps through, which made it much easier to attach the top and bottom together neatly. The closure works well. It's good to know that it can be forgiving when it comes to the length of these slots. The closure and the whole carrier are strong enough to serve the purpose very well. I know that some animals will strenuously resist going into a pet carrier, and a closure that can be worked with one hand is very good to have. There are better closures in this regard. You may need to use one hand to push the animal back into the carrier, while using the other to close the door. I practiced before trying it with my kitty, carefully folding each flap back so that it would stay well open, and then closing the handle flaps as quickly as possible, which is enough to keep the animal in while I closed the other two flaps. When the time came to do this for real, it worked well for me, but I do have a pretty good kitty. Fortunately, she didn't test the waterproof features of this pet carrier. I'm confident that the bottom is waterproof though, as proven by the beer boxes I built. Making this pet carrier from one piece of corrugated plastic would result in a pretty nice looking carrier. Any first build should probably be seen as a prototype and proof of concept, but this did function perfectly as a pet carrier as well. Creating a template for a pet carrier using one sheet of plastic would be pretty straightforward. The handle opening doesn't look bad, but the octagonal shape of the beer carrier handle makes it look a bit better, and it wasn't much harder to measure or cut, so it was worth the extra effort. I hope it's been a good trip. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and click the bell to be sure you're notified of my next video.